There is a battlefield you step onto every single day. It is not your job. It is not your finances. It is not your relationships. The greatest battlefield in your life is your mind. The enemy does not need to control your environment if he can control your thoughts. He does not need to block your blessings if he can corrupt your thinking. Because once your thoughts are defeated, your life will follow. But here is the good news. God does not just improve behavior, he transforms thinking. And when God transforms your thoughts, he revives your mind. You may have been thinking in fear. You may have been thinking in defeat. You may have been thinking in insecurity. But God says transformation starts internally before it shows up externally. You cannot live a victorious life with a defeated mindset. When God transforms your thoughts, he replaces lies with truth. He replaces fear with faith. He replaces confusion with clarity. He replaces negativity with divine perspective. Revival is not first a shout in a church. It is a shift in your mind. When your mind is revived, you see differently, you respond differently, you believe differently, you walk differently. You stop letting circumstances dictate your mindset and start letting truth dominate your perspective. Some people are asking God to change their situation, but God is saying, let me change your thinking first. Because when your thinking changes, your situation no longer has the same power over you. Transformation happens when you align your thoughts with heaven. If God said you are blessed, stop calling yourself cursed. If God said you are chosen, stop calling yourself rejected. If God said you are victorious, stop thinking like a victim. Revival of the mind means you no longer entertain thoughts that contradict what God has spoken over your life. The mind is the gateway. What enters repeatedly settles permanently. What settles permanently shapes destiny. So guard your thoughts. Renew your mind daily. Speak truth intentionally. Meditate on promises consistently, because when God transforms your thoughts, he revives your confidence. When he revives your mind, he restores your hope. When he restores your hope, he releases your purpose. You are not stuck. You are not finished. You are not forgotten. Your transformation begins now in your mind. The greatest conflict in your life is not happening around you. It is happening within you. Long before a struggle shows up in your circumstances, it has already passed through your thoughts. The mind is the control center of your life. It is the command room where decisions are formed, perspectives are shaped, and faith is either strengthened or weakened. If the enemy can influence your thinking, he can influence your direction. If he can plant a lie and you believe it, he does not need to do anything else, because that lie will begin to grow roots and shape your behavior. Every day you wake up stepping onto a battlefield. You may not hear the noise of war, but there is a constant war between truth and deception, faith and fear, confidence and insecurity. Thoughts come quickly and quietly. Some sound like your own voice. Some echo words spoken over you years ago. Some are triggered by past failures. Others are fueled by present pressure. But not every thought deserves permission to stay. The problem is not that thoughts come. The problem is that we rarely question them. We assume that because we thought it, it must be true. But a thought can be loud and still be wrong. A thought can feel real and still be false. A thought can be familiar and still be destructive. That is why discernment in your mind is critical. If you do not evaluate what enters your thinking, you will eventually be controlled by what you allow. The enemy understands something powerful. Your life will move in the direction of your strongest thoughts. If you constantly think you are inadequate, you will shrink back from opportunities. If you constantly think you will fail, you will hesitate before you even try. If you constantly replay past mistakes, you will sabotage present progress. Your mind becomes the lens through which you interpret everything. Two people can face the same challenge, but the one who thinks differently will respond differently. This is why the battle is so intense. The fight is not first for your job, your family, or your future. The fight is for your perspective, because perspective determines response, and response determines outcome. When fear dominates your thinking, you react defensively. When faith dominates your thinking, you respond boldly. The difference is not in the situation, it is in the mindset. You cannot live a victorious life with a defeated mind. Victory is not just about external wins, it is about internal stability. A revived mind does not deny reality, but it refuses to let reality have the final word. It filters circumstances through truth, rather than filtering truth through circumstances. That shift changes everything. Many people try to change their habits without changing their thoughts. They try to fix behavior without addressing belief. But behavior flows from belief. Actions follow thoughts. What you consistently think about, you will eventually act upon. If your mind is filled with negativity, your words will reflect it. If your mind is filled with hope, your posture will reveal it. The battlefield of the mind determines the fruit of your life. Guarding your mind requires intentionality. You must monitor what you consume, what you meditate on, and what you repeatedly rehearse internally. The conversations you replay in your head matter. The narratives you tell yourself matter. The labels you accept matter. If you keep rehearsing defeat, you will normalize it. If you keep rehearsing promise, you will strengthen your faith. Winning the battle in your mind does not mean negative thoughts never appear. It means they do not control you. It means you recognize them, confront them, and replace them. You do not let fear build a permanent residence in your thinking. You do not let insecurity narrate your identity. You do not let doubt drown out truth. When your mind shifts, your life shifts. When your thinking aligns with truth, clarity replaces confusion. When your perspective aligns with purpose, strength replaces hesitation. The battlefield is real, but so is the authority you have over your thoughts. You are not powerless in this fight. You can choose what to entertain and what to reject. And every time you choose truth over lies, faith over fear, and confidence over insecurity, you win another round in the greatest battle you will ever face, the battle within your mind. Most people want God to change what they see, but He often begins by changing how they think. We naturally focus on the external, our finances, our relationships, our opportunities, our open doors and closed doors. We pray for circumstances to shift, for obstacles to move, for visible breakthroughs to appear. But heaven understands something we often overlook. If the inside does not change, the outside change will not last. Transformation precedes manifestation. You can step into a new season with an old mindset and sabotage the very blessing you prayed for. You can receive a new opportunity, but approach it with fear shaped by past failure. You can walk into increase, but still think in scarcity. When that happens, the external gift cannot produce its full effect because the internal framework is still outdated. God is not just interested in upgrading your situation. He's committed to upgrading your perspective. Before elevation comes preparation. Before promotion comes renewal. Before manifestation comes transformation. The process is intentional. If God were to change everything around you without changing what is within you, you might mismanage the blessing, misunderstand the assignment, or misuse the favor. Internal transformation ensures that when the external shift arrives, you are ready to steward it. Consider how often frustration rises when nothing seems to be changing. Doors remain closed. Progress feels slow. Prayers seem unanswered. In those moments, it is easy to assume stagnation. But sometimes the silence around you is because the work is happening within you. While you are waiting for visible movement, God may be reshaping your thinking, refining your motives, strengthening your patience, and deepening your trust. The unseen transformation prepares you for the seen manifestation. External change without internal maturity creates instability. If your mind is still governed by fear, then even when opportunity appears, you will hesitate. If your thoughts are still shaped by insecurity, then even when affirmation comes, you will question it. If your thinking is still rooted in defeat, then even when victory arrives, you will expect it to disappear. Internal transformation stabilizes you so that external success does not overwhelm you. This is why mindset renewal is not optional. It is foundational. You cannot carry new weight with old thinking. You cannot sustain new levels with outdated beliefs. Growth requires mental expansion. God stretches your perspective so you can step into spaces that once intimidated you. He reshaped your thoughts so you can handle responsibility that once felt too heavy. What feels like delay may actually be development. Transformation also shifts how you interpret challenges. Without renewed thinking, difficulty looks like rejection. With renewed thinking, difficulty looks like training. Without internal change, opposition feels like proof that you should quit. With internal change, opposition becomes confirmation that you are progressing. The same situation can produce despair or determination depending on the condition of your mind. Manifestation is often dramatic and visible. Transformation is quiet and gradual. Manifestation es plus transformation de preparation. Manifestation is the fruit. Transformation is the root. Roots grow underground where no one sees them, but without strong roots, fruit cannot survive storms. God strengthens your internal roots before he allows visible fruit to flourish. When your thinking changes, your expectations change. When your expectations change, your behavior changes. When your behavior changes, your results change. The external shift is often the final stage of a much deeper internal journey. You may look back and realize that long before your circumstances turned around, your perspective already had. Instead of asking only for doors to open, ask for wisdom to grow. Instead of asking only for problems to disappear, ask for insight to develop. Instead of asking only for environments to improve, ask for your thinking to be refined. Because once your thoughts are transformed, you respond differently, you speak differently, you decide differently. And those differences create new outcomes. The order matters. Transformation first, manifestation second. When your mind aligns with truth, clarity replaces confusion. When your heart aligns with purpose, courage replaces hesitation. And when your internal world is strengthened, your external world can shift without destabilizing you. The greatest breakthroughs often begin quietly, inside your thinking, long before they appear visibly in your life. Every day, whether you realize it or not, you are listening to a voice inside your head. That voice narrates your experiences, interprets your circumstances, and defines your identity. Sometimes it reminds you of past failures. Sometimes it predicts future disappointment. Sometimes it whispers that you are not enough, not qualified, not ready. Those whispers may sound personal, but not every internal voice is truthful. And if you do not intentionally replace lies with truth, those lies will quietly shape your life. A lie does not have to be dramatic to be destructive. It can be subtle. It can sound reasonable. It can be rooted in a painful memory or a disappointing season. I always mess things up. Nothing ever works for me. I'll never change. I'm too far gone. Repeated often enough, those thoughts begin to feel like facts. But repetition does not equal truth. Just because a thought is familiar does not mean it is accurate. Lies thrive in silence and repetition. The more you entertain them, the stronger they become. They attach themselves to your identity and start defining how you see yourself. Once that happens, they influence your decisions. If you believe you are unworthy, you will settle for less. If you believe you are incapable, you will avoid stepping forward. If you believe you are rejected, you will withdraw before anyone can get close. The lie becomes a filter, and that filter distorts everything. Truth, on the other hand, must be deliberately embraced. Truth does not always shout. It often requires intentional focus. Truth says you are not defined by your worst moment. Truth says your mistakes are events, not identities. Truth says your past does not cancel your future. Truth says you can grow, learn, and become stronger than you were yesterday. But if you do not actively reinforce truth, the lies will dominate by default. Replacing lies with truth is not about positive thinking alone. It is about accurate thinking. It is about aligning your perspective with what is real rather than what is distorted by fear or insecurity. When fear says you will fail, truth says you are capable of learning and adapting. When insecurity says you are not enough, truth says you are growing and equipped for what is ahead. When doubt says this is impossible, truth says there is always a way forward. The process begins with awareness. You must identify the lies you have been rehearsing. What thoughts do you default to under pressure? What narratives surface when something goes wrong? What labels have you accepted without question? You cannot replace what you refuse to confront. Recognition is the first step toward renewal. Once identified, the lie must be challenged. Ask yourself, is this absolutely true? What evidence supports it? What evidence contradicts it? Often you'll discover that the lie is built on emotion rather than fact. Feelings are real, but they are not always reliable. They fluctuate with circumstances. Truth remains steady even when emotions shift. After confrontation comes replacement. It is not enough to remove a lie. You must fill that space with something stronger. If you stop telling yourself you are incapable but never reinforce your strengths, the old narrative will return. Replacement requires repetition. Speak truth consistently. Meditate on it. Write it down. Declare it when doubt rises. Over time, truth will become the louder voice. This is a daily discipline. Lies may attempt to resurface, especially during moments of stress or disappointment. But each time you respond with truth, you weaken their hold. Each time you reject a false narrative, you strengthen your mental resilience. Over time, your default response shifts. Instead of automatically assuming the worst, you begin to expect growth. Instead of assuming rejection, you anticipate opportunity. When truth shapes your thinking, your posture changes. You stand taller. You speak with more confidence. You take healthier risks. You pursue goals you once avoided. Not because challenges disappear, but because your interpretation of them changes. Truth stabilizes you. It anchors you when circumstances try to shake you. Replacing lies with truth is not denial of difficulty. It is refusal to let distortion define reality. It is choosing clarity over confusion, faith over fear, growth over stagnation. As truth becomes rooted in your mind, it transforms how you see yourself and how you engage the world. And once truth governs your thinking, the lies that once controlled you lose their power. Many people think revival is noise. They think it is emotion, excitement, raised hands, loud declarations, or a temporary surge of inspiration. They associate revival with an atmosphere rather than an alignment. But true revival is not first something you feel. It is something that shifts within you. It is a renovation of perspective. It is a reawakening of clarity. It is a mental reset that changes how you interpret everything around you. A revived mind does not mean life suddenly becomes easy. It means your interpretation of life changes. The same challenge that once discouraged you now develops you. The same delay that once frustrated you now strengthens your patience. The same opposition that once intimidated you now confirms that you are moving forward. Revival is not the removal of difficulty. It is the renewal of perception. When your mind is not revived, you react impulsively. You allow emotions to dominate your decisions. You let fear narrate your future. You allow temporary setbacks to define permanent conclusions. But when your mind is revived, you pause before reacting. You evaluate before responding. You filter your emotions through truth rather than allowing your emotions to filter the truth. That shift alone can change the entire trajectory of your life. A mental shift is powerful because it changes your internal dialogue. Instead of saying, why is this happening to me? You begin asking, what can this produce in me? Instead of assuming rejection, you consider redirection. Instead of interpreting silence as abandonment, you interpret it as preparation. The situation may look the same externally, but internally, everything feels different because your framework has changed. Revival begins when you become dissatisfied with old patterns of thinking. You realize that negativity has drained your energy. You recognize that constant doubt has limited your growth. You see how replaying past mistakes has kept you stuck. That awareness creates a hunger for something better. You no longer want to think the way you used to think. You no longer want fear to dictate your choices. You desire clarity over confusion. This shift is not automatic. It requires intention. It requires discipline. You must choose what you focus on. You must choose what you dwell on. You must choose what you allow to dominate your imagination. The mind is like soil. Whatever you plant repeatedly will grow. If you continually plant worry, anxiety will flourish. If you continually plant hope, resilience will flourish. Revival is choosing what you plant. A revived mind also affects your speech. Your words begin to reflect confidence rather than defeat. You speak possibilities instead of limitations. You encourage instead of complain. This is not pretending problems do not exist. It is refusing to magnify them beyond their actual size. It is refusing to let them overshadow the bigger picture of purpose and growth. When revival takes place internally, you gain stability. Circumstances no longer control your emotional state as easily. You are less reactive and more responsive. You are less shaken and more anchored. That stability influences every area of your life: relationships, work, goals, and decisions. People around you notice the difference. They may not be able to explain it, but they sense a steadiness that was not there before. The beauty of a mental shift is that it creates momentum. Once you experience clarity, you do not want to return to confusion. Once you experience peace in your thinking, you resist patterns that disrupt it. You become protective of your mental space. You guard what enters your mind because you understand the cost of allowing chaos to dominate. Revival is not a one-time event. It is a continuous renewal. There will be moments when pressure tries to pull you back into old thought patterns, but each time you choose perspective over panic, you reinforce the shift. Each time you choose patience over impulsiveness, you strengthen the renewal. Over time, what once required effort becomes your new normal. When your mind shifts, your life follows. You begin to see opportunities where you once saw obstacles. You recognize growth where you once saw failure. You sense purpose where you once felt lost. The transformation is not loud, but it is powerful. It is not always visible, but it is undeniable. True revival is not about temporary emotion. It is about lasting perspective. And once your mind is renewed, everything connected to it begins to move in a new direction. Renewal is not a one-time son. It is a daily discipline. Just as your body requires consistent nourishment, your mind requires continual strengthening. You cannot feed your thoughts once and expect them to remain strong forever. Life happens every day. Pressure shows up every day. Voices compete for your attention every day. If you are not intentional about renewing your mind daily, you will gradually drift back into old patterns without even realizing it. Victory is not sustained by occasional inspiration. It is sustained by consistent alignment. One powerful message can encourage you, but without daily reinforcement, that encouragement fades. The reason many people experience temporary breakthroughs but not lasting transformation is because they treat renewal as an event instead of a lifestyle. They are motivated for a moment but undisciplined in the process. Your mind is constantly absorbing information, conversations, social media, news, memories, disappointments, and expectations all flow into your thinking. If you do not filter what you allow to settle, your mind becomes cluttered with negativity, and cluttered thinking produces confused decisions. Daily renewal clears that clutter. It realigns your focus. It resets your perspective before the pressures of the day distort it. Morning renewal is powerful because it sets the tone before distractions begin. When you intentionally center your thoughts at the start of your day, you build resilience before challenges arise. Instead of reacting emotionally to every inconvenience, you respond from a place of clarity. Instead of being overwhelmed by unexpected problems, you remain steady because your mind was anchored first. Renewal requires repetition. You must remind yourself of truth even when you already know it. You must reinforce what is right even when lies feel louder. Just because you won yesterday's mental battle does not mean today's battle disappears. Growth demands consistency. Each day you choose discipline over distraction. You strengthen your mental endurance. Part of daily renewal is evaluating your thought patterns. Ask yourself, what has been dominating your thinking? Are you replaying negative scenarios that have not even happened? Are you dwelling on criticism longer than encouragement? Are you magnifying obstacles and minimizing possibilities? Awareness prevents drift. When you recognize unproductive patterns, you can intentionally shift them. Gratitude is another powerful tool in daily renewal. When you consistently acknowledge what is working instead of focusing only on what is missing, your perspective expands. Gratitude does not ignore problems. It prevents problems from becoming your only focus. It balances your thinking. It reminds you that even in imperfect seasons, progress is possible. Renewal also involves guarding your inputs. Not every voice deserves access to your mind. Not every opinion deserves consideration. If you continually expose yourself to negativity, fear-based messaging, and toxic influences, your thinking will reflect it. Discipline means choosing what strengthens you instead of what drains you. It means being selective about what you consume and intentional about what you meditate on. Daily renewal produces stability. When challenges arise, you are not easily shaken because your foundation has been reinforced repeatedly. Instead of spiraling into worst-case thinking, you pause. Instead of assuming defeat, you consider solutions. That stability builds confidence. And confidence built on consistent renewal does not collapse under pressure. Over time, daily discipline becomes your default setting. What once required effort becomes habit. You no longer have to force yourself to think constructively. It becomes natural. You no longer default to fear. You default to faith-filled reasoning. That is the power of repetition. Small, consistent shifts compound into lasting transformation. Victory is not dramatic every day. Sometimes it looks like choosing patience instead of frustration. Sometimes it looks like rejecting one negative thought before it grows. Sometimes it looks like speaking encouragement to yourself when you feel uncertain. These small decisions accumulate, and over weeks, months, and years, they build a resilient, focused, and confident mindset. A renewed mind is not built in a single breakthrough moment. It is built in quiet daily choices. It is formed in consistency when no one is watching. It grows stronger each time you choose truth over distortion, discipline over impulse, focus over distraction. And as you continue renewing your mind daily, you create a foundation strong enough to sustain long-term victory in every area of your life. A revived mind produces disciplined focus. Without focus, even strong intentions scatter. You can have vision, talent, and opportunity, but if your attention is divided, your progress will be delayed. The mind was not designed to chase everything at once. It was designed to concentrate, to lock in, to move with clarity toward what truly matters. When your thinking is transformed, our focus becomes sharper, and distractions lose their power. Distraction is subtle. It does not always appear as something negative. Sometimes it shows up as something good but not essential. It pulls your energy toward comparison, unnecessary conflict, endless scrolling, or overthinking possibilities that are not aligned with your purpose. A distracted mind feels busy but produces little. A focused mind may appear calm, but it moves with precision and impact. When your mind is not disciplined, emotions dictate direction. One comment can throw off your entire day. One setback can derail your momentum. One unexpected obstacle can consume your thoughts for hours. But when your mind is renewed and revived, you regain control over your attention. You choose what deserves your mental energy and what does not. You decide what to magnify and what to minimize. Focus is powerful because attention amplifies whatever it rests upon. If you constantly focus on problems, problems feel larger. If you focus on progress, progress becomes more visible. If you focus on growth, even mistakes turn into lessons. Your attention acts like a spotlight. Wherever it shines, that area becomes dominant in your perception. Discipline is learning to direct that spotlight intentionally. A revived mind understands the cost of divided attention. When you attempt to pursue too many things at once, you weaken your effectiveness in all of them. Clarity requires elimination. You must identify what aligns with your purpose and release what does not. That release may feel uncomfortable, especially if you are used to saying yes to everything. But strength grows when focus narrows. Mental discipline also means refusing to dwell on what you cannot control. There will always be uncertainties. There will always be opinions you cannot manage, outcomes you cannot guarantee, and variables you cannot predict. If you allow your mind to obsess over those unknowns, anxiety increases and productivity decreases. But when you focus on what you can control, your effort, your attitude, your preparation, you regain stability. Consistency thrives in focused environments. When your attention is scattered, your habits become inconsistent. You start projects with excitement, but abandon them quickly. You set goals, but lose motivation when distractions arise. A disciplined mind pushes through boredom and remains steady even when excitement fades. It understands that progress is not built on constant emotion, but on sustained attention. Comparison is another enemy of focus. When you constantly measure your journey against someone else's, you divide your energy. Instead of refining your own path, you become preoccupied with theirs. A revived mind recognizes that comparison steals momentum. It redirects attention inward toward growth, improvement, and personal alignment rather than external validation. Developing focus requires boundaries. You must protect your time, your thoughts, and your energy. That may mean limiting exposure to negativity. It may mean scheduling uninterrupted periods of concentration. It may mean stepping away from environments that drain you. Boundaries are not restrictions. They are reinforcements that protect your clarity. The more you practice discipline,
Loving you alone feels so beautiful, and yet it hurts the most. You became my quiet sunrise, the dream I never dared to say. Every smile you gave so freely took my breath a little away. I held this love like fragile glass, so precious, soft and true. But every beat inside my heart was only reaching out to you. Unspoken love is sweet and painful, like honey mixed with rain. A tender hope I hold so tightly, while it slowly breaks me. Loving you from just one side now leaves my soul in silent blue. 'Cause the deeper that I fall alone, the lonelier I do. I can't blame my heart for choosing someone it could never keep. So I smile through hidden heartache and love you quietly. Unspoken love is sweet and painful, like honey mixed with rain. A tender hope I hold so tightly, while it slowly breaks me. Loving you from just one side now leaves my soul in silent blue. 'Cause the deeper that I fall alone, the lonelier I do. Maybe loving you in silence is the closest I can stay, though it leaves behind a sorrow that may never fade away. Unspoken love is sweet and painful, like honey mixed with rain. A tender hope I hold so tightly, while it slowly breaks me. Loving you from just one side now leaves my soul in silent blue. 'Cause the deeper that I fall alone, the lonelier I do.